I will call to order the meeting of the Board of Adjustment of January 21, 2016. And the first order of business is that the clerk needs to call the roll.
Dwayne Adams.
Here.
Baron Guccio.
Here.
John Haxby.
Here.
Don McClintock is excused. Robert Stewart.
Here.
Also present is Julia Tucker, Board Counsel, and Lisa Slusner, Deputy Municipal Clerk. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we do anything, we need to congratulate our clerk for her recent promotion.
Thank
And
you.
just so that all of you know, this is not something perfunctory. She had to take classes for this, and I'm not sure whether you had to pass exams, but this was not just on the spur of the moment. This took some time, and it involved keeping her fingernails painted for 6 months at least, and providing Barbara Jones with a lot of coffee for quite some time. So, congratulations on behalf
Thank you
of all
very
of us.
much.
That's wonderful
Thank
to
you.
hear that, and I'm particularly pleased to hear that you are still going to be our liaison here.
Yes.
Well, that's
And I'll
important.
just let you know that I had to ask to keep you, and I'm very
Seriously?
happy to keep you, yes.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was
That's
my
very
one
nice.
concern.
We like you too.
I enjoy
do a
the
good
work
job.
that you all do.
Oh,
I had the same concern when I read that.
Yeah, well, that was my immediate reaction. In her new exalted position.
I was
she
afraid to ask.
Well, who was-
I'd get into big trouble. It'd be like a doomsday. So I just was like,
But who was the
sitting
other
on the
gal?
edge of my tray.
I love my
we
boards.
We have 2 clerks now. This is something that went back to before, for more than 10 years, because I've been here 10 years. And when I came, there was a woman named Lupe Marquin, who was functionally the deputy clerk for elections. And there was Linda Hine, whose title said that she was the deputy clerk, and she took care of the administrative things, and Barbara Grunstein was the clerk. And Barbara had hired, my understanding was Barbara had hired Lupe to be the second clerk, and somehow that never materialized. Either there were budget things, or there were personnel issues, or whatever that was. So that rolled forward, and in 2011, 2012, there was another opportunity, and the Assembly advertised for an elections clerk. And they had an administrative clerk who was the deputy municipal clerk for administrative things was Jacqueline Duke. And so I had a different legal assistant then, whose name was Chiquita Cothran, and I encouraged Chiquita to apply for that because, you know, she had a law background. She actually had a law degree that she hadn't used. She was kind of a finance person, so she really got numbers, and she applied for that. And they had quite a few people apply for it, but she was selected. And then she went down for her final interview, and by that time, the administrative clerk had convinced the municipal clerk that they really didn't need a second deputy for elections, and that the position could just be seconded to the administrative clerk as sort of a coordinator, as had happened the prior time with Lupe Marquin. So again, there was not a deputy clerk. Chiquita decided that she would prefer to stay my legal assistant than be, she thought it was sort of a switch and bait. She now works for the finance department, so that's good. And I got Lisa recruited and came in as my legal assistant. So now this time we had finally a deputy after the failure of the 2012 election, or near failure of the 2012 election. They appointed a clerk specifically to elections, which left still the administrative deputy clerk sort of kind of out there, and again put all the election and made one person. Barbara has Jones has peripherally lived through the 2012 election and serving cleanup, and has been working and supporting interest in the department for cross training and clerk training by others. And Lisa took that opportunity and's been working on her
Wow.
clerk certification. And tell me what I've left out.
You haven't left out anything.
Yeah,
do we-
yeah.
do we
So
have
now
a
we have
second?
2 clerks.
Okay,
So
and
we
that was
still
the other
have-
gal who was here last
Amanda.
time.
Amanda
Okay.
Moser.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
still are supported by other clerks within the department, because usually the clerk staff member that supports different boards and commissions isn't always at the deputy or municipal clerk level, and that's why Lisa said she asked to keep us, because she has a lot of other duties now in addition to this one, but she asked to keep
Well, God bless
this
you.
one.
Well,
So-
that's very nice.
yeah, so we don't have to
Really
train a new
appreciate it.
one. She doesn't have to
Okay.
train a new one, and we're just gonna keep marching along,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why, like I said, I was sitting on the edge of my chair because I was afraid to ask and bring bad luck to us.
Before we go any further, let's make sure our cell phones are turned to the silent mode. I tend to forget that. Anyway, the first slightly more substantive matter is the approval of the agenda. Would you take a look at it and see if there are any additions that you would like to make to the agenda here for what should be a short meeting tonight? Anything at all? Anything? John?
No?
Bob? No? Dwayne? No?
Move for approval?
Okay, it's been moved and
Seconded.
seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Seeing none, it's approved. Minutes of the previous meeting. I hope you had a chance to look at that. I have, but I must tell you, I didn't go back to the decision. So, if you have any additions or deletions to those minutes, I would like to hear those now. Well,
You know, I didn't have a chance to go back and compare our notes and everything, but what I see here comports with all the changes that we were going through and what we made.
yeah,
I don't see anything that does not.
okay. Dwayne?
Same here. I did read the whole thing, but I did not do a comparative analysis, but I think it's all there.
Okay. John?
I'm good.
Okay. And I don't have anything, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, any further discussion? Any opposition? Seeing none, that is approved. Old business. Approval and adoption of the revised. Wait a minute. Oh, I see what my problem is. Okay. We are now moving to, there not being any other old business to new business. And item A1, Don McClintock's orientation and oath of office is not going to occur because he cannot be here today. And the next item is to elect the chair and vice chair. And so, moving to the election of the chair, first of all, are there any nominations?
Yeah, I'll nominate Baron for chair.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Wait a minute. Any other nominations?
I make a motion to cease nomination.
Seconded.
Take care of that.
All right. Okay. I should say I'm willing to do this. It's not a big chore. It's mostly an administrative matter, as you know, and trying to keep you in line during meetings. That's all. And,
But
you know, by my personality, that's a good thing to do.
You've done a good job, and it takes a lot of time, and I know that.
Thank you. We need to vote on that, on the nomination. I have been nominated, and so all of you in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, I have been re-elected for another year. And now we come to the election of a vice chair.
Move for
And,
Bob.
I-
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
I nominate Dwayne as the second, or as the second one.
Okay.
We seconded
Anybody
this
to
already.
second that?
We did what?
Fails for
No,
lack of
It's gonna die from lack of a second, I
It
think.
fails
seconded?
for
Well,
lack of
yeah,
a
it's gonna
second.
die for lack of a second. We
Excuse
nominated
me.
him, right?
Excuse me, excuse me.
It's
As
good
it
to have a parent
stands,
over.
Bob has been nominated, and it's been seconded. And the second nomination was of Dwayne, but that nomination failed for lack of a second. Any further nomination? Seeing none, nominations are closed, and we now get to vote on the appointment of Bob Stewart as vice chair. And I would so move. And somebody needs to second that?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, everybody say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nobody. All right, thank you. Bob, you're going to be vice chair for another year.
Moving like clockwork.
The annual disclosure form needs to be filled out by those, but if you don't have them, Lisa, do you have all of them
I
right
have-
now?
All but Dwayne's and
Oh, Dwayne,
Don's.
okay.
And Dwayne will get his to me.
And Dwayne, you will attend to that, because
Yeah,
it's
it's-
one of those nagging little things that
It is, but
I don't want us to get tripped up on.
mine is a little complicated. so
Yes, yes.
I had to wait for someone to get back today.
Okay, all right. Then we come to the next issue, and that is the appeal number 2015-2, and that's the UMet case. First of all, I should tell you that Don McClintock, even if he had been here, would have excused himself because he was involved in that matter tangentially, having represented both APU and Mark Pfeffer, who has an interest in that matter. So-
In this man?
Oh, in the UMed situation, because of the development plan that APU has, and so they are all in favor of that road presumably. We need to pick, first of all, are there any other disclosures of potential conflicts? Dwayne?
Yes, DOT is a major client of mine. And while I don't have any fiduciary gains possible from this particular action, they are a major client of mine. In some people, that is a concern. Also, I am working on a project for AP that will occur on APU campus, so tangentially, they are also a major.
Related to the extension.
Well, the project would overlook the extension possibly at a higher elevation, but it would look down on it. So they are tangential, they are not the primary client, but similar to Mark Pfeffer, who is leasing land, this would
Yeah.
be a lease as well. It is not directly adjacent, but it certainly would be within sight of that.
Okay.
And last of all, I am an adjunct professor at UAA as well.
Okay.
So there are those
So-
three. None of those will, I will not benefit personally in any manner, but there may be the appearance that might.
Okay. So what you're saying is you would like to sit this one out?
I think it would, it's very interesting. I'd love to be a part of it, but I am concerned if we have others who do not have
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
degree of conflict, I think it probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay. Anybody else? John, do you have anything you?
I have no conflict of interest. We're gonna, if I'm gonna be on, we're gonna need to be circumspect with the timing of it. Just
Oh, yeah.
scheduling,
Oh, yeah.
because I
No,
travel
that's not a
frequently and
problem.
I've got a lot of
understand.
travel this
I
spring and
understand.
into the summer,
Yeah,
so
but right now we're talking about conflict of interest.
no conflict.
Mr. Stewart, anything at all?
I have no conflict of interest.
Okay, and I don't have anything either. So what that really means is that Mr. Haxby, Mr. Stewart, and I will be sitting on that case. By default, more than anything else.
I thought I was gonna get out of it. Okay, but that's all right.
This, by the way, will be a case that will require a lot of work.
I understand.
And as you know, it's very controversial, so we have to be, well, I don't want to say we have to be particularly careful. We always try to be very careful, but there may very well be a number of issues coming up that haven't raised their ugly heads at the present time. And for example, you have seen that this DOTPF is the appellee in this case, which is a little odd, but so we don't know what the situation is there. And have you heard, Lisa? Have you heard anything? Are they going to file a brief, DOTPF?
There was some hesitation, and I haven't heard anything since then, except that Sean Baskey did reply to an email and say that kind of like an A-OK, I got it, as if to say that they were going to proceed.
Okay, so as far as you know, they are
As far as
going
I
to
know.
file something.
Mhm.
Because if they don't file anything, that makes it just so much harder on us. You know, there's nobody to respond to the appellant. And, you know, okay, so.
That's going
I'm
to be
glad to hear-
complex.
Yeah.
It's going to be very complex.
Oh, yeah. So before we go any further then with this and talk about any schedule, we need to talk to our trustee counsel here, Ms. Tucker. There is attached to it, to what Lisa sent us, the tentative schedule. She very nicely keeps track of the timeline here, and I'm very appreciative of that. So, assuming arguendo that there is no continuance requested by March 11, we should be ready to turn the matter over to Julia to work on the brief, on the memorandum, I should say. So, assuming, just for argument's sake, that date stands, how long would you take?
I have a preliminary request of the board that I discussed with you by phone. And that is that I need to make a disclosure, and the board needs to make sure that they're comfortable with my representation. And so Bernd and I talked a little bit about this. And so my disclosure goes like this. I work for the Assembly. Among members of the Assembly, there are those who reacted very negatively to the mayor's pronouncement in the newspaper that the mayor had told DOTPF to take the money and put it towards the port. That I was contacted by at least one Assembly member, and that contact was not substantive, did not result in any substantive work by me, because I already knew that there was an appeal filed. And so I talked with the Assembly member about that and said that, you know, we have to kind of manage the conflict on here, because I can't be doing legislative work for you on an issue that that is scheduled to come before the board. And that Assembly member understood exactly about that. And so I have not done any work related to this. But I do work for the Assembly. I do other work for the Assembly. When we had one other matter come in front of the board here that was also being addressed by the Assembly, and I had a preliminary discussion with Bernd, and that one was so close that it was better to get outside counsel for that. This one, I've managed it so that you're available, but I do need to make this disclosure, and you do need to decide if you're comfortable with that and will allow basically a waiver of the fact that I have clients that may or may not agree with the mayor or any
This
parties
project or
here.
the project going or not
project
going,
Or not
sure.
going, or the P&C decision. As you know, the Assembly doesn't hear the appeals from this board and doesn't hear the appeals from the other, from P&Z. In that other matter, and I had discussed this with Bar Council beforehand, and that's what why Barrington and I had the discussion there, is I need to be able to make a representation to you, which I do, that I believe I can evaluate this as I have in other matters and will not be influenced in any manner by feelings that may be made known to me by other clients. But it's your confidence in that that's important.
Well, I must tell you, on the basis of everything that I've heard, I do not see a conflict there, since you said you had not worked substantively on this for the Assembly at all. And I think that's the crucial part. If you're suddenly asked by the Assembly after tonight to work on this, and you feel compelled to do so, that of course would knock you up. I think we would all agree to that. But I would hope that you make an effort not to let that happen.
Right.
Because as much as you have tried to get other counsel to sit in your place when you can't, I think this board feels very comfortable with what you have been doing in the past and will feel very comfortable what you will be doing on this case, and so we would very much like to keep you. And as I said, just again, I haven't heard anything from you that indicate to me that we need to look to outside counsel. Mr. Haxby.
That does bring up a question, though. Is there any circumstance that you believe that the Assembly might ask for your counsel to draft a resolution or otherwise to attempt a vote to shut down the project? Because it is the city participates in this as well. You hear about Berkowitz who's saying, take the money, use it elsewhere. And that, because if we're going to rely on your counsel, if there's the ability for them to try and shove this down your throat as you're their counsel, then all of a sudden we're sitting at a point, we go halfway through, and then there's a conflict.
Right. So, if my understanding would be this, as I have support from the board chair and as I said, the other Assembly member who initially contacted me about this understood exactly and intended to get counsel elsewhere. And so if the board waives conflict,
Mm-hmm.
then my position is that I'm working on this, and as long as this is active, I can't
You'd have to
do that
recuse
because
yourself for work on that.
I'm conflicted out. I'm conflicted out
Got
under the bar rules. And so in situations like that, the Assembly has the ability to get counsel from the
Elsewhere.
municipal attorney.
Sure.
They also, if an Assembly member's position is contrary to the position taken by the administration, then the municipal attorney can conflict out and say, no, I'm representing the mayor's position on this. And then the Assembly gets outside counsel.
Okay.
Okay?
And that has happened in the past.
And that
That's
has
what-
happened in
yeah.
the past.
So-
So we get first shot at
if you
yeah.
get first
Yes.
shot,
Okay.
Yeah.
then that sticks. And what I can do is if this, I had, when the request came up, it was, a month ago or more. And so, whenever that was in the newspaper. So I discussed it with the chair at that time to let him know what had
Mhm.
happened and the contact, and he supported me doing work, and he didn't want me to get conflicted out of right off the bat, off of working here.
Can you give them notice at this point?
Yes, what would happen is that if this board agrees to waive conflict, then I will be telling the chair tonight, if it's not too late, or tomorrow when I see him, that I'm on this and I'm off that.
You're
and that
conflicted out
would be
with any of that.
conflicted
Got it.
out of any of that. And
Okay.
then should he have a problem with that, then we'll know right away.
Yes.
Because it will be true up, and then I can let you
And
know
then
that.
you would
that-
let me know.
And then.
Because then we need to do something.
Right.
I'm comfortable with
All
that.
right. Any further comments regarding this issue? Dwayne? You have anything? Okay. Bob?
I just have one question. Is there a way that the assembly could force you into a conflict with the bar rules?
I wouldn't
Please.
think so.
Okay.
No, because what they could do is my direction on things like this, in terms of workload, come from the chair. So what the chair could do, if I update the chair tomorrow and say, this is what, they don't see a conflict, we're gonna go forward in this, and that means that, you'll have to direct assembly members wanting to work on this to go to the municipal attorney's office or to get outside counsel.
Okay.
So you're
If
conflicted
he
out
says-
immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if he
Okay.
says, Julia, I've thought about this, and I think it would be better for you to conflict out of the BOA work, and we'll get special counsel for the BOA,
Well, no.
then we'll
Well, then-
know, and then I'll have to do that, because basically the work that I do for the assembly comes first if they say dibs up front, but they cannot do what you asked me. They cannot allow me to start work on this with
And then
notice,
suddenly-
and
Never.
then
Gotcha.
put me in a
Okay.
conflict situation with
That's
the
all I've got
with the
as far
bar.
as-
Right,
yeah.
right.
Really
It just
good
helped me
point.
to kind of walk through
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
I would,
So,
could
yes.
I ask just one question?
Sure.
Do you have any specialized knowledge that would make you a preferred person to provide attorney services on behalf of the assembly that would make you a much more desirable person on their behalf as opposed to some other legal advice?
No, I would say that I don't have specialized knowledge. I may have easier access to municipal documents, because they're all on an
Okay,
internal
that's-
system. But in terms of land use
But not
planning,
knowledge.
but not knowledge, I'm a blank slate about
Okay,
this.
that's all I
so-
needed to know.
So that was it. The other thing, just so that you can just put this in there, one of the things that I was concerned about in that other case, and why the conflict comes up, is that I would want this board, as I sort of mentioned before, to be confident that in the materials that I prepare for the board, that they're not unduly influenced in a substantive way through me by any assembly member.
Sure.
Right.
Not a big
Or
issue.
any, no, so I mean, in the other case that we had, which involved what was
The
that?
road.
Not
The
the
road in
road, not
Eagle
the
River?
road. Oh, it's not the road, it's that power plant, the MTA
Oh,
power
the
plant.
MEA.
MEA,
Birchwood,
MEA.
Birchwood.
MEA, yeah, the
Yeah.
MEA power plant. Here was
Yeah.
the situation. We already knew, because the assembly member was participating as a
Well, two
private
of them were,
person. In against that. And my concern, is shared with Barrett, is that what if it turns out that after I read everything and did all that it looked like the board should not approve that? How is the board going to know if I'm just structuring it that way because I have two clients back here who are out in front of it in the paper and everything, wanting that to happen, and so in this case, I can just tell you, I think I have clients probably on both sides of this. I know I'm a blank slate. I
Okay.
did that, and so that.
Good, then I think the understanding should be that the board very much wants you to prepare the memorandum, and we support you fully, and we do not feel that you have a conflict of any sort whatsoever. And I would like you to tell the assembly chair, whenever, as soon as you can, really, that we have charged you with preparing the memo. And that should probably just end the matter right then and there.
Yeah, I do it in
And
writing now.
Thank you, and that's
And-
what, I will do that with the chair, and then what,
And copy
Steve
Baird
Van Gore,
in.
what Steve, I will talk to the chair, and then what Steve Van Gore and the rules contemplate is I formalize a written waiver
Yes.
that you're authorizing Barrett to sign.
Yeah.
Then that's my document.
Okay.
And then that's what is on the record that
I'm good.
shows that I'm not there, and it also, is evidence that they, that I have a.
But-
You
but
noticed-
it's
Yes.
Wait,
official.
yeah.
You noticed them, it's been waived,
Yeah.
and we agree.
Right.
I'm into it, that's fine.
Good. Anything further regarding that? No? Then let's come back to the timing issue. Let us assume hypothetically that the last brief is filed 3/11, March 11. Julia, how long would you take?
I
Would you
always ask you
require?
for 30 days. Sometimes
Okay.
I can do it in
No,
less
that's
than
fine.
that, but
That's
I
fine.
ask for 30 days.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so that would make it roughly the 11th of April. And so we could hear it tentatively. Let's give it at least 1 week for us to work on. Is that enough? Or should we do it? We can either do it on the 20th or the 21st of April, which is about 9 days after Julia has had her 30 days, or we could do it on the 27th or the 28th.
What were the dates? What were the dates?
April.
April what?
April 20 or 21, or April 27 and 28.
Let's, one of the 27, 28 one for me.
Okay? Well, then,
And either one is fine.
27th or 28th.
Either one
Okay,
will work for me.
so at least we are on that week. Okay? Any druthers, whether Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday seems to work better. I had initially
Okay.
thought
All
Thursday
right.
a couple times, but Wednesday
Dwayne?
works better.
I'm not on this shit, so.
Oh, you're not on it, I'm sorry. John, 27th or 28th?
27th.
Wednesday or Thursday?
Either one for me. He says
Okay, so
Wednesday.
let's
I'm
say
good.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we will first do, as a tentative date, April 27 at 5:30 in this building, wherever. There was some indication that somebody is going to ask for an extension of time. And if that turns out to be substantive in terms of, being more than just a week or so, then we will probably have to postpone.
Is that an extension prior to the,
Yes, it's prior
Okay.
to the matter going to Julia
Okay.
to prepare her brief.
because I was just.
See, if there's a brief missing, she can't get to work until that brief is either filed or the deadline is passed and nothing is filed.
Yeah,
you
and
see.
if there's
But-
nothing filed, can she do that in 30 days? Because it's gonna be more complicated.
Well,
Yeah, I think that this is a good schedule. I'm mindful that we're gonna have the 2016 election on April 4th.
oh,
So we have the election, but that means that we don't have an assembly meeting on
Okay.
April 4th. Then April 11th, April 12th, I said 4th. April
yeah,
5th is
yeah.
election day.
right.
The 12th is generally a substantive meeting for the assembly, not an election meeting for the
Okay.
assembly. The 19th will be the swearing in, and is limited to certification of the election and swearing in.
And 15th
So-
is tax day, so.
Yeah, 15th is tax day, right. So I'm thinking that we should keep the schedule that you said, because if there is, as Baron said, a delay of a week or so, we have a little bit of room to move my brief down. And I'll be able to let you know, we'll know that. If it's, more than that, then we're gonna sort of get crowded,
Yes.
because I won't know what they're saying in their brief. We
Well-
have the record, but we don't know what that.
And
What
the
the
other
point
thing
is.
is, it may be that this turns out to be more complicated for you than you are right now anticipating, and you may need more time.
Right.
So here's what I'm suggesting, that we simply set it for the 27th of April,
Tentative. Mhm.
and in the event it needs to be postponed, we will deal with the issue then. Okay? It'll move into May. I would like it not to, but who knows? Who knows? It can happen. Okay? Any problem with that? Anybody?
None.
No, I can
Okay.
deal with it.
So that's what it's going to be. And Julia, you must let me know. I mean, we are perfectly understanding. If you suddenly come to the conclusion there's too much assembly work to be done otherwise, I don't have as much time as I thought I would have to devote to it.
Thank you. I
simply-
appreciate that.
You simply
Yeah.
holler and let me know, and then you and I will discuss it, and maybe we will simply reschedule the date from the 27th to something later. So it's not a big deal.
Thank you,
Okay?
appreciate it.
All right. What else do we need to discuss? Oh yeah, all of you have seen the decision in the Nordstrom's case, Nordstrom's Rack case. We were simply overruled by the judge. And all I can tell you is, from my vantage point, that was an easy thing to do for the judge, because in the event of doubt, you always call for a hearing. I mean, what damage can there be to a public hearing? And so it was an easy one for the judge to rule this way. I don't know if you had a chance to review
I read
the
it.
decision.
I read it.
And clearly the judge was a little, what do I do here? So, anyway, there it is. Nobody likes to be overturned. That also goes for judges. I'm not sure where this case is heading. Have you, Lisa, have you heard whether this is being appealed any further, or?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Sears is going to appeal the Superior Court decision.
Okay,
So that goes to the Supreme Court?
yes.
Good.
Maybe we prevail after all. Who knows?
You know what, I'm guessing that we will.
Well, there is no guarantee that it will actually end up before the Supreme Court, because it seems to me there is, if I were representing one of the parties to this, I would say there is some pressure there to settle this in some fashion.
How do they
Just
settle
to
it?
get-
How do they settle it though?
Well, they simply agree on something that both sides can agree on.
What
You
they
know,
do in the
and-
That
future-
I think they could do that pretty easy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
talked to Jim Reeves about this the other day, after Lisa gave me the heads up that the appeal had been filed, and Jim Reeves represented, he was on the briefing of some of that stuff, and so I called him, and what he said was he wasn't doing any active work now because the counsel to Sears had suggested that the parties get together and talk about this, and that what it sounded to me like what Jim was saying is that there's some, what the parties are, what the appellants or what the smaller merchants, the non-Sears merchants, are facing is that nationally and internationally, the business model for Sears and for
Mhm.
malls like the one that we have there is sort of on the wane, and more and more of the Sears space may end up getting chopped up and having these issues. And so for the merchants in there, you know, they appealed it and everything, but, you know, in everything that we read, you would have expected that you could at least get to the mall by going through Sears.
Mhm.
Not so. I was in Sears and thought I'd ask about how do I get to the mall, and you have to go all the way outside to get to the rack. So I've yet to get to the rack,
Didn't
but
it
just
use,
last week.
didn't it used to be, you used to be able to go to the mall from Sears, and they cut that
Yeah,
off.
you
no,
can
no,
go.
you can
No,
go
you
to
can
the
still do
mall
that, but
from
you can't
Sears,
do
you
it from the-
can't.
Can't get into
From the
Nordstrom
Nordstrom
Rack.
Rack,
rack.
which is
Yeah.
what at least in the other one, you could have gone that way, but now you can't even do that.
So what's the
Anyway.
relief?
So I think that what they're talking about is some kind of relief for other future chopping off of Sears, because otherwise you're going to have
But doesn't
more
this,
and more.
but doesn't this demand that it go back to the assembly to get?
No, not to the assembly, to P and Z. Simply for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Yeah,
Which
See,
may
the
not
interesting
change
thing
the
is-
outcome
the
at
in-
all. And so they might leverage that to say, look, okay, we're going to give on this, but the next time you're going to take off space, you're going to make sure that that it has an entrance. You're going to redesign it. The next time you chop your next.
that's not a big deal
500
though,
feet.
because they all now have entry in there anyway. That's the big, okay, all right, so
They
you're
all
saying.
don't have entry in there.
But
What-
will P and Z waive the public hearing, in fact, to, if in fact, let's say they all say, okay, we're good, and then what does P and Z say? They're directed
just
So
by
at that
withdraw
point,
the
the appeal is
appeal.
taken care of.
Yeah, they just withdraw the appeal.
Yeah, they just withdraw the appeal.
They
Yeah, but
won't
this
appeal it to the
doesn't-
Supreme Court.
I understand, but this still says, take it back and have a public hearing.
It
Well, it's a
moves out
non-public
because they have a
hearing. Waive
settlement
it.
instead.
They simply waive it. You know, the little merchants that got the decision here. They
Waive it,
simply
not
waive
P
that.
and Z.
Just say, we don't want a public hearing anymore. It's all done.
Nice. Nice,
Uh,
okay.
No, the
you
whole
know, because
thing
of a
was
settlement,
that
I
they
mean, that's
didn't
what-
appeal anything substantively. They only appealed on this procedural point.
Right.
So, you know, if I were Sears, I would say, sure, have a public hearing here. This is not going to change anything.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, we'll see what happens. The worst that can happen from our vantage point is that the appeal proceeds to the Supreme Court, and then we'll see what.
No, I want it to go there. I want to see, because I think we were right.
Well, I thought so too, but you know.
Yeah.
And I had good counsel.
I think
Okay? I had all three of you for counsel. You're all
No, we
lawyers.
all agreed on it. That was my memory is that there was relatively little discussion on that point.
Yeah.
That was not the real hard part of the case.
No, it's stated clearly in colored. It was
Yeah.
previously established things,
Yeah.
minor change, no big deal.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the least
Anyway,
of the worries.
yes, Julie.
I actually have a different take on this opinion, and I think that the board should feel, in light of the cell tower case, which you worked on, vindicated and validated by what the court says about the code. And
That's
I think
what
that,
I saw,
that- that's
too.
what I'm taking out of here. And so there is the secondary issue, which he already identified, which is when on the staff level, not on the level on appeal, but on the staff level, when in doubt about public hearing, go public
Just-
hearing. That's what the court is saying. That's what they've said in many
About the due
other
process.
Yeah.
process cases. And so you have here the court recognizing that these fundamental decisions about process can't be left to the lowest level of administrative official over in the planning department interpreting code that fundamentally doesn't make sense, which is what this body said about the cell tower code, and it's equally true
Yep.
about the machinations, which you didn't sit on this one, but the machinations that you had to go through
Exactly.
to find out if it's site plan review, if it's this or if it's that.
It
and-
removes an appeal point. That's what it does. A public hearing removes
absolutely.
removes probably 90% of the appeal point. Even if the assembly comes back and says,
And there's
"Thank
really
you."
no harm
There
done
means-
if you have a public hearing as opposed to having somebody in the department make the decision.
And I think that there's going to be room, as even under Title 21, for this board to quote this court about the status of ambiguity in Title
Yes.
21.
Yes.
And so for that purpose, I think we just ignore the fact that it may have overruled you, because it wasn't overruling you on anything substantive.
No, it-
No.
And that we take heed, and that to me, sometimes Barrett and I have discussed about how, yes, it's true that the code says that you have to have findings of fact and conclusions of law. We have this format to put it in. This has findings of fact and conclusions of law that looks like this, and it has commentary. And I think that I would like to see this board move in a direction that the decisions, not as long as this, but are somehow give yourself room to at least quote other courts when they're talking about the state. You've already X'd yourself with the municipal attorney anyway, so you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, but
But-
we've got this case right here, and we've got this upcoming case with UMed, and they both have to do with public meeting issues. Now, as a point of process for us, it would seem to me that we write some type of memorandum back to the assembly, said, look, you need to change this stuff and put in these public meetings for whatever they are, amend Title 21, whatever it is, to get this in here so we're not dealing with issues of public hearings as a point of appeal. Let's remove those, because that's a waste of our time. We're sitting here searching the code, trying to get through, look, did they follow the open meeting law? Did they follow a public process? Did they follow that stuff? Well, Christ, we're going to just get overburdened every time somebody walks around and says, I don't like it, they didn't do this properly from a public
Yeah.
meeting. We're hosed.
Yeah.
That's our valuable time. We don't need to spend
Well,
on
that's
it.
true. Okay. Anything else regarding this matter?
Where does the cell tower appeal sit right now? Do we have any idea?
I have no idea.
Um,
Lisa, do you know?
Yes, it is. There's been a decision made. They're in the middle of briefing right now, the briefing process. So,
Who is representing, so did the homeowners get a lawyer? Or are they doing it themselves?
they're doing it themselves.
Okay, and the city, or really GCI, is represented by their own outside lawyer.
Mhm.
They hired
In-house,
some.
or is it outside?
No, I thought they
Inside.
hired somebody, didn't they?
They didn't do, they brought Rebecca Wendt
Yeah.
inside council.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what
she
it
is.
was.
She does
Okay.
work for GCI.
Okay.
So.
I
All
think
right.
one thing that's kind of funny is the aggrieved party was at a meeting that Bob Stewart and I attended, and the aggrieved party agreed that it's appropriate to put small cell technology, which is what that was,
Yeah,
on utility
on
poles.
top of utility poles.
Mhm.
But
No,
not
they
theirs.
agree
Not
with
theirs,
that.
it's an
Apparently not
NIMBY issue.
theirs.
It's an NIMBY
NIMBY.
issue.
Well, it always was, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it was so very clearly stated as such.
Okay, all right, let's not talk about that kind of further. That's about it. Anything else that anybody wishes to bring up? If not?
Nope.
Mine's a follow-on that
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, but I'll share with them. The in relationship to the cell tower, Amy Demosky is chair of what used to be called the Title 21 Committee, and that was at a meeting that you guys went to that was or a subcommittee.
This was a
of-
cell tower
that-
subcommittee.
Wheeler
the
was
cell
working on
tower,
it,
the
right.
cell-
Right.
So Dennis Wheeler, formerly our municipal attorney, is under contract with the clerk's office to help support that office. And we have a cell tower ordinance that was drafted, and you all commented on it, and it is now in front of the assembly. I mean, it was introduced to the assembly. It will go to P&Z for public comment, come back to the assembly, and the schedule for that coming back to the assembly is February 20, the second meeting in February, which is February 23rd. So it has a big, long time to get to the community council, such and things like that. But my preliminary reading of it showed, as I shared with Barrett, that, and I don't know if it's still there, I haven't checked it recently, was that if somebody appeals the decision
From P and Z.
from P and Z, it doesn't come here. It's gonna go directly to the Superior Court.
Sweet.
So-
You've been cut out.
So, yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. They don't want any more That's why I said to Baron, you've already, there's no, put the whole,
Yeah. Okay. All right. If there's nothing further, we simply stand adjourned. Thank you for.
Thanks for agreeing to the service charity.
Okay.
You too, Bob.
Yeah, I'm happy
All right.
about that.